Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the full show for you today. We apologize for last week. It was mostly my fault, but everyone is partly to blame, I think.
Specifically you, though.
Not Randy. Randy's perfect. I'm perfect.
No, it's actually my fault. I was busy.
We have a lot to catch up on.
We do.
We have 2 weeks worth. I actually feel like we don't have time to kind of screw around because I got questions for you guys and we have an update. Let's just kind of get in. This is a packed episode.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I was about to say, you said 2 weeks. Haha. Funny meme. Meme. Well, I wanted to save this for this week because last week, I think it was just going to be me and Randy. I'm like, we got so much to talk about. Me and Drew got to see some Rivians over in Sonoma. He got to see them twice.
I went twice.
This time, the second time I saw you were looking at the green one, I was like,
yeah. That was Louise's favorite, actually.
And this is why her and I are friends.
Right.
Yeah. I must say.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Very striking in person. Whole different thing. It doesn't, I mean, the yellow that I'm wearing, I'm not too sure if it conveys well over the internet, but this is about the same yellow as the Compass yellow. It doesn't look like a school
mustard?
bus. Yeah, it's like a mustard. It doesn't look like school bus yellow, which was actually refreshing. But they had, I think,
they got the yellow right.
Yeah, they had almost every single color there except for the red, I think, and
Red Canyon.
Red Canyon and maybe one other, but they had silvers that were indistinguishable.
What was your favorite color, Mike?
Yellow.
Obviously, Compass yellow.
Okay.
Compass yellow is the way to go. If I get a Rivian, Compass yellow, but the wife otherwise says Rivian blue, so I think we'll compromise and get Rivian blue, but
meet in the middle.
Yeah.
I guess we'll meet in the middle and get Rivian blue.
Yeah. But
smart.
It was a fantastic event. It was very chill. Like, we walked up. We were planning on doing, like, the FSD beta drive for Drew first before doing the event. But we decided, hey, let's just go see, like, what the event looks like and if we need to wait in line for things. And it was basically you come, you check in, and then that's it. You get to look at Rivians for however long you want. And we got to check out, I think they had 3 on display. And they all had kind of different things going on. 2 of them were basically the same. One had a yellow tent, one had a gray tent, and then one didn't have.
They had
tent.
every interior color.
Yeah, well, except for the base trim interior.
Yeah, except the Explorer package.
Yeah, they don't have the Explorer package there, but these were all, I think, pre-production but post-initial production or initial prototype vehicles. So they had some quirks, but I don't know. The interface was nice. I liked it. Drew, what did you think?
Yeah, I was impressed with the software. I liked the layout of the screens. There was a guy on the second time we went that was messing around. It felt like Randy because he wanted to play with all the equalizer settings and the audio being prioritized at different points of the truck.
A man of culture.
It sounded amazing. The speaker system was fantastic, and Mike, I know, really liked the swipe to the right to access your now playing thing.
Yeah, that was on like the bottom right of the screen where you could swipe off the screen onto the screen, and the little Spotify widget, or they had Spotify. I don't know if they could enable any other like Apple Music or anything else, but it swiped on, which I really liked versus Tesla's approach, which is you have to press a button on the bottom or it's kind of just stuck on the screen, which I don't know. It's a nice approach to audio if you want to quickly skip a song or play a song or change something.
As far as non-Tesla built-in operating systems go, this is as best as it gets for EVs, I'd say, or just cars in general. I haven't seen anything come close to this in terms of user-friendliness, responsiveness. It's a bit jittery at times. I know I can see what some people were talking about, but not nearly as bad as like the Mach-E or the ID4. So,
agreed.
No, they did a decent job. I'm sure they've got some more work to do, but I was impressed. I liked it.
Yeah, Camp Kitchen is really cool in person as well. Like, I think it's definitely worth the $5,000 with, I think, was it like 40 different utensils it comes with?
It's packed with all kinds of things.
It's packed.
That was Louise's favorite part. She was they were making popcorn for us, and she was looking at all the different drawers and stuff, and she liked it a lot. Same with the tent. They actually, when I went with Mike, they didn't fold it up, at least when I was around the tent. But on the second time, they showed what the tent looks like when you pack it up again, and it's really fast. You can basically just pick up the ladder, and the whole thing caves in on itself like an accordion and just lays flat over the bed.
So you want to make sure that there are no people in the tent before you do that.
Or people you don't like, yeah.
Okay, that's
right. But it's, yeah, you just sandwich them in there. But it was really intuitive how easy it was to set everything up and put it back away. I love the sink that's built in. You've got water from the opposite end of the gear tunnel that you can fill up or empty out.
It's like six,
and it's all
6 gallons, right?
I think it was 4, but yeah, something around that ballpark. A decent amount of water. You'd have to be holding the little sink thing down for a while before you'd run out of water. But just the idea that can all pack away inside the truck and you still have full access to the bed and the frunk and everything. And I like the interior design choices they made. I tried the cooled seats on the second time we went, which was really, really nice, even though it was cold. So as far as non-Teslas go, Rivian is the closest thing I've ever found to be like tempting me to stray from the path.
The path.
Yeah, it was
Right.
enough, at least for me and the wife, to where when we were driving home after we checked out the Rivians and did the FSD beta drive with Drew, we discussed, okay, I think the only circumstance where we'd cave in and go for a Rivian is if the Y got in a terrible crash, not by me, not my fault. I would not put in that situation. I love my Y.
Never.
But if there was an unfortunate situation where it got destroyed, basically, and I get all my money back from insurance, I'd probably put that into a Rivian, because right now it's going to take forever to get a Model Y. I think right now we're looking at, like, I don't know if it's March 2023 for the base model or something like that, or
October.
it's
of
October next year. Still, I think I could get a Rivian in that same amount of time at this rate. Really,
I'm not sure. Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. We asked them several times, like, what if I order one today? When will I get one? And they're not even giving estimates. You know, like they're not even really wanting to provide a ballpark range of delivery. So, depends a lot on, I think, what you order, where you're located, and how fast they can ramp production, which we have really no idea. Although the second time we went there, we asked an employee how many deliveries had there been, and they said over 200. So seems to be scaling up pretty quick. But yeah, I know they've got like 50,000 reservations or something like that. So I'm not sure if you'd get the Rivian or the Model Y sooner. It's a good question though. Probably neck and neck.
Yeah.
Well, seeing how that you have all the merch of Rivian, between the mug and the hat and the shirt, I think they'll just be like, oh, this guy loves us so much, we'll just make sure he can get it quickly.
Yes, please.
That would be nice.
That's how that.
That would be
That's
cool
how
if it
that-
worked
that's
like
gonna
that.
work.
Yeah. I don't know. I dug it. I think I mentioned this to Drew either on a live stream or something else, but I think it's was it the camping package, the $7,000 camping package total, being the camp kitchen and the tent. I think, to me, it might be. This is my own opinion. It's worth more to me than FSD beta. Just
The
because
camp kitchen thing?
Yes. Only because that's all physical stuff that you can work with and touch, and you can immediately go out and use it. Where FSD beta...
They're not beta products. Yeah.
They're not beta products. Like, you're able to get in the
beta
tent, and it's not like, well, this part of this tent is available, but the other part you'll get eventually or something like that. No, you can get it today, and you can choose a color, yellow or black or whatever.
And you don't have to retain a certain safety score to attain the camp kitchen.
Very true.
It's a big add-on, but you know Tesla's guilty of add-ons as well. They're just mostly software-based.
True. Though I find Rivian's add-ons more useful, or at least more utility-focused, that I would use more. Yeah. Am I camping every day? No. Every week? Nah. I'm probably only camping like maybe once or twice a year. But being able to use a gear tunnel for whatever I want, and even it has I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it also has a hidden tonneau cover that rolls out as well. So you're able, like the Cybertruck with the weird one that is like a garage door. It's
I
kind of
don't know if you can walk on theirs though.
I don't think you can walk on Rivians, but at least like you can cover your stuff in a 4-foot bed, which a little bit small, but I don't know. I see more utility in it than Autopilot. Autopilot's cool. I've been using it. It's fantastic. Also not fantastic. Sometimes it scares the bejeebus out of me. I'm still a responsible driver. Other times it does amazing things. But it's still unreliable, and we don't know how long it's going to be unreliable, where I can rely on the camp kitchen working, or at least it seems like I can from what I've seen. And from an engineering perspective, it doesn't seem like there's too many failure modes with putting up a tent or rolling out a gear tunnel. Or even climbing through a gear tunnel, which I did. That was pretty fun.
He did. You almost didn't make it out.
I got halfway through. I'm like, this was a mistake, and I can't go backward. I have to keep moving forward.
So hold on. You know how like in the trunks of cars or in the fronts of Teslas, they have to have like the little emergency pull-out thing? Do they have to have that for the gear tunnel?
They do.
Okay.
It's there.
So yeah.
Bummer.
Even the
shove
front
Randy
has
in
one.
the gear tunnel and drive away.
It's a glow in the dark button, but yeah.
Careful, Nick. I'm gonna put you in my frunk and trunk.
I mean,
you're gonna need
it's
to.
the only way that it'd fit, but gee.
Yeah. Volumetrically speaking,
I mean,
it's the
you
only
can
way.
play hide and seek with a Rivian, but you can't with a Tesla. If there's things that you want to compare.
True.
What were you gonna say, Nick?
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. I just wanted to point out the fact that I'd shove Randy in the tunnel at the first opportunity.
Just let the record be clear on that.
That is the record.
But
First chance I get.
Let me be clear.
I'm impressed. Mike now has a different plan B option. I guess, the likelihood of going with the Rivian over the Cybertruck is up in the air, but now he has a assuming something goes wrong with the Model Y and he gets his insurance money back on it, he would not replace it with the Model Y at this point, which says a lot. I'm curious if you've looked into the charging costs of the R1T.
No. What's my plan going forward would be, since we're thinking about moving out of California, we're still balancing that idea. The next house I want to go to, I want to get solar. I want to get solar in there so that way I can actually charge my car at home, which I don't do right now. I mainly use superchargers, which a lot of people would say that's very unhealthy for the battery, but it's either that or I'm paying PG&E sums of money that I'm already losing. So I'd rather do the free supercharging that I've got for my referral people. Thank you again, people who use the referral code that was in Drew's description for a while.
He's still going through them. They're not gone.
They're not gone yet. But yeah, I'd probably still get solar for it, and I'd mainly use the electricity from my home that it generates for the R1T. And then I'd eat the bill when I want to do camping trips wherever I want to go.
Because that's probably the biggest deterrent for me. After going to the Rivian event, I thought a lot because I was like, man, that was a lot of fun. That truck's really cool. And at first I was like, I'm not in the market for a pickup truck, but after looking at the Rivian, maybe I am in the market for a pickup truck. But once I looked at Better Route Planner and the charge network, I lost interest a lot faster just because Electrify America is expensive. I had no idea how much more it costs per kilowatt hour to use these stations, and that's the most common network outside of the free slow chargers that are still hanging around. And the Rivian does a decent job. When you put in a faraway destination, it'll tell you where to stop, just like Tesla does, and how long you have to stop for. But the cost was about the same I would have to pay for gas in my current car. So I'm sure because it's a pickup truck and an expensive pickup truck, the insurance on it is probably going to be much higher than my current vehicle.
Bless you.
And simultaneously, the charging routes that were about as much as we spent on gas to get to the different places we drove on my anniversary trip. So I was comparing it with a Tesla Model Y or Model 3. on average, with all the different routes I plugged in, it was a difference of like 3x more expensive.
Wow.
Per trip.
Wow.
So like a drive on a Tesla said it would take around $50, and then a drive on Electrify America was like $150.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I guess it's probably the most efficient pickup truck in the world because it's electric, but it doesn't change the fact that it's the least efficient electric vehicle in the world, and you don't have the Rivian Adventure Network really active
that
yet.
That Hummer hasn't come out yet.
That's true. The Hummer will set some new inefficiency records.
That sucker is
I
quick.
think that'll surprise no one, but don't worry, GM is leading the transition, guys.
Oh,
so
yes, 100%.
we have nothing to worry about because the bolts are out there changing the world. But
there is a bunch of bolts, to be fair.
Yeah, they're just...
My wife spec'd out a bolt recently.
Oh,
and she
why?
She was curious because we were talking about what Biden said about GM and everything. And she was like, why doesn't it tell me the range? Like, at no point of the specs was it ever listing the range. And I said, the range is however far the explosion pushes the vehicle down the road.
Oh, no.
It's a new kind of combustion engine. But
it's not an internal combustion engine. It's just a combustion engine.
I think the charger network for me was the biggest factor as to why I wouldn't go for a Rivian, at least right now. I'm kind of interested to see how quickly they can ramp that network, because I do think that could change some things. But
what about the Tesla network?
What's that?
At some point in the near future, they're going to be opening up the Tesla Supercharging network for third parties.
Yeah, but
there's a few issues I have with it.
Rivian's port is not on the right side. It's on the left side. And
it's on the front.
It's on the front. So if you want to park an electric truck at a supercharger, you'd want it to be the closest port to, you want the port to be as close as possible to the supercharger. In which, if you put it on the bed, you're gonna have to snake wires through the bed, and that's not smart. You'd want to put it more towards where the battery and the rest of the vehicle has its electronics. So that kind of be near the front where most charge ports are for like Audis and other things. But like Audi, it's got the charge port on the left side, and if you try parking the Rivian like almost not like a Tesla where you back in, but when you drive in like a regular parking spot, you're going to be taking up the charger that's not yours. It's going to be the adjacent one on your left. So it'd be better if
you'll need an adapter on top of that.
And an adapter. So you'd want to put it on the right, so then that way you're charging like a Tesla if you want to use the supercharging network.
The point is not to use the supercharging network for daily fill-ups, Drew. The point of that is when you're on the biannual road trip or whatever, and there isn't an adventure station and there isn't an Electrify America network station, there's definitely going to be a supercharger. And that's where that comes in that minor inconvenience of having to park funky or use a longer adapter that has, 6-foot extension on the adapter. That, to me, that doesn't preclude you from buying a vehicle that is, something you want.
There is a bigger, for one, I should mention the charger network difference is not me worried about running out of range and there not being a charger available. The bigger difference is the efficiency and the cost. So Electrify America is more optimized for the R1T, but it costs a lot more. And as we've already seen in the Netherlands, where they activated supercharging for non-Teslas, they do pay more than Teslas do. It does cost more. So the price being higher, not to mention the Rivian costs twice as much, uses twice as much energy per mile as like a Model 3 or Y on average. Maybe not quite twice. I think it's around 70 miles per gallon equivalent, whereas a Model 3 is at like 130 or 120, somewhere in there. Just because of how the vehicle's designed and the fact that it's over 7,000 pounds, you're going to need to spend more money on more electricity to move that thing around. So it's not so much I'm worried that I'll be driving on a trip and, oh no, there's not enough EA stations or the EA stations are out of order, let me use a Tesla. It's like, just the way the car's fundamentally built, it's going to cost more to own and operate. And that, on top of the fact that it's already a fairly expensive vehicle, only reason I was really considering it is because the Model Y price just keeps getting higher and higher. And I was like, at this rate, Model Y and R1T are going to be fairly equal pricing in the next few months. At least within the same ballpark, you know. They're less than $10,000 apart right now. And the Model Y will probably keep going up. Not to mention Rivian has talked about offering a cheaper option at some point next year with less range, but yeah, we're already planning on doing more road trips in the future than we have been, just because we want to travel more. Right now, I have to drive the car myself, so I don't like doing road trips. But in the future, if the vehicle's doing a lot of the driving, I was actually fairly interested in Driver Plus because Rivian is going with the approach of just the eye tracking, so you don't have to keep your hands on the wheel, and you just sit there and watch the road, which I prefer that to Autopilot. I'm sure that FSD Beta is miles ahead of anywhere where Rivian's going to get, but I'm having that conversation with myself of like, okay, I'm either going to have to choose a couple months out of the year where I subscribe for $200 or pay $10,000 up front to access this software, which I'm interested in the software and I think it's cool, but it's definitely not as material as a camp kitchen or, you know, it's unfinished like prototyping, whereas Rivian feels more complete, I guess, aside from the charge network, I suppose. But yeah, I definitely have a eye on them now. Like, they're on my radar. They've got my attention, and I just want to see how they execute. I want to see some more long-term reviews. I want to see some people go on road trips with them. And, you know, if there's... The other thing that was kind of a big red flag is, like, we don't know how good the battery management system on these things are. We know they're using 2170 cells, and we know how those age in Tesla's vehicles, but how good is Rivian at maintaining battery health long-term? Because these are big batteries. These are large, 135 kilowatt hour, I think, on the 300-mile range option. And it's a perfect size. Like, I love the size of the Rivian because it looks like something you can easily park. It would easily fit in our carport. It's not like... If you see it in person, you'll get that this is not trying to be an F-150 or a Cybertruck style size of it's going for more of a middle ground. Like, I think if more people saw it in person, they would understand why I did a live stream comparing it to the Model Y, because I was like, they have a lot of similarities despite one being a crossover and one being a pickup. People are like, well, those are totally different. Where I'm like, well, they both seat 5. They both are over 60,000. They both go over 300 miles per charge. They're both electric. They both have software-driven display interactions. They both have autonomous driving features. They both have a certain amount of functionality and practicality. So there's an argument to be made that, and Mike can attest, when we were at the event, most of the cars in the parking lot were not pickups. Like, the majority, actually, the second time we went, it was kind of fun because we saw like every EV. We saw the Porsche Taycan, we saw the Mach-E, every Tesla, even a refreshed X, and an ID4, and a Bolt even. It's all like electric.
You're just missing the Audi.
You know. Oh, right. We're missing the
and
e-tron.
the Rimac.
But it wasn't every EV, but we saw a lot. I saw a Plaid Model X actually driving just out of your house on the way back.
What?
Out of my house?
Ooh.
You found out.
No.
I have a Plaid Model X.
Ladies and gentlemen.
As I
yoke
was
is
leaving Mike's
finally
place,
got on.
I saw the refreshed gills, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a new one. And then when it passed me, it said Plaid on the back. I was like, whoa, did they start deliveries of that? But basically, we saw a crap ton of EVs within a day. But yeah, it's a pickup, but I think there's a lot of non-pickup buyers interested in it, similar to the Cybertruck. I think a large number of Cybertruck reservation owners have never owned a Cybertruck before. I never owned a pickup truck before, sorry. They definitely haven't owned a Cybertruck. But I think Rivian's nailed their first product pretty well with its features, and I think the vibe and the character they gave that truck has got me thinking a lot, which is probably what they want, but the adventure network is probably the biggest limiting factor of just like, if you could actually have as many charge stations as they say they're going to build, and they were affordable and they didn't cost too much, because I think Electrify America is charging a premium because they're trying to actually be, I don't know, somewhat profitable. if they can deliver on that, it'll definitely get me thinking. But as of now, it's just a lot of wait and see, I guess.
I'm already sold.
Oh wow.
I'm already sold. The thing's cool. It's just gonna be more hilarious if it comes to fruition, and then my wife has a Ram 1500 and I've got a Rivian R1T, because then we're just a 2-truck household. And
there's a lot of those.
It's very expensive, both in insurance and refueling it, whether it's with gas or with electricity. We're gonna be taking a hit, but I think enjoying the adventure vehicle that it is will probably be the trade-off for me. We'll see. I don't know, but yeah, that's basically it. We didn't get to test drive them, unfortunately.
What? You didn't get to test drive them?
I inquired 2 times. I'm like, hey, are you sure there's no like spaces for test driving? They're like, no, we're all booked up. Do you have the newsletter? Because we might contact you through there. I'm like, yeah, I'm on the newsletter.
There's a long list of people that we're getting to test ride, and I was like, we'll just sit in the back, we won't say anything, I'll be quiet. And they were like, no, can't do that.
There's a few videos of that test drive online, and it looked fun. It goes through some of the hills around the Sonoma Raceway and ends with you going down a really steep hill that the guy that we talked to on the first time that that Drew went, the Rivian Drew, they had to take like a shovel to like the trough or like the mound that it was making, because the tires were cutting into the hill, which was causing dirt to pile up in the middle, which then the bottom of the truck would start scraping, or not scraping, I guess, but it would definitely rub against. And so they had to clean that multiple times. But they did that just for this Rivian event. Like, that hill apparently in the past has usually just been barren, nothing been on it, but now there's a giant Rivian track on it. But I don't know.
Louise loved the event, by the way. We tried the porta potties on the second time. They had free stuff in there. They had deodorant. They had face spray. She took a bunch of pictures. She was like, I've never been in a porta potty this incredible. You flush the toilet by a lever that's on the ground, and you just push it down and it flushes itself. And it was really, really, they had free drinks, free snacks. So we, started stacking up in the backpack. We were like, are these free? And then we just sat on the bench and watched the test drives as they rode around all day, and asked them all kinds of questions. Every Rivian has a tow hitch, of course. It's just kind of hidden, but you can pop off the back and access it. And they did tell me you can buy the camp kitchen after delivery, so you don't have to buy it with the truck, which was helpful.
That'd be the biggest package you'd ever get in the mail, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's actually a service appointment. They have a mobile service thing that comes out to install it.
You could actually install it yourself.
Yeah. They probably want to get to that point, but I'm sad that there will probably never be this equivalent for a Tesla again. Like, they're so big, there's so much demand, there's never going to be just a free come by, check out this prototype that's coming out soon. Like, I want this type of, I want a first mile event for the Cybertruck, and I know it'll never happen. Because as Mike's wife was telling us, she was like, Tesla is just like, buy our stuff. You will buy this, and you will like it. Because they've got way too many orders to fill for them to try to, all this event is just try to gauge demand and try to get more people interested in the product, which that's the last thing Tesla needs right now, because they're almost sold out for next year. So they're never going to do something like that. Even though it's fun and I like it, I doubt it would ever happen. Like, they're closing showrooms. There used to be a showroom next to my nearest Apple store, and it's not there anymore because Tesla's like, don't need it. There's no point. So why bother? It's a waste of money, which is true, but it's still a lot of fun to check out these cars. So I hope more EV. I hope Aptera does one of these. I hope Lucid lets people get closer. Canoe would be great. Get me in a canoe. Yeah, I want the canoe. That sounds fun too. So, thanks, Rivian. Appreciate it.
Indeed. So, Randy, you've been quiet.
Definitely a little too quiet, honestly.
How's the score, good sir?
Unsettling.
Unsettling. I was just letting you guys recap your special event, and
Just for us.
just for you. And also, this is the first time I'm hearing it, so I was just taking it in. I wanted to hear the experience. All I saw was, Instagram stories. To which, by the way, Drew, Brittany was watching Luis's stories, and she was like, "Oh, interesting." Like she was learning more through just the quick shots you guys were, or at least that she was able to capture and post, and she likes it. Just from what she can see, she likes it, but there's an absolute level of hesitance when you can't get the full picture. For example, you can't do your test driving or something. So just from presentation alone, it looks nice, but there's still a lot of questions, that I'm sure even you guys still have because you didn't get to do the full thing. So, but it looks nice. I think likewise to Mike, depending on where I'm at, if something was, God forbid, and I don't want this to happen, but if something was to happen to the Model 3, I've talked about, like, I'm not opposed to looking outside. I would like to stay within my Tesla ecosystem. But if I want to be a little bit more vain about things, that green interior just looks like Boba Fett's ship. It's so
looks
cool.
like his armor.
That was Louise's favorite too. She liked the forest green.
I
This is the
love
first
it.
truck I've ever seen my wife interested in. I've never seen her like a truck before.
That's good news.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
you telling me that she wasn't really a fan of trucks and she would never consider an EV, an EV.
Well,
an EV truck.
Right. Well, a
That-
truck of any kind, really. She just doesn't like trucks.
That one's nice.
This is the first one she sat in, and that she was looking at that forest green, and she was like, "I could see myself in one of these."
Can I ask,
And I was like,
how big
"Whoa."
is when you sit inside, is there a lot of cabin space for you guys? It looks roomy, but I don't know if that really is the
I'd
case.
say the front is better than the back. The back leaves a bit more to be desired.
Okay.
Me and Mike were sitting in the back seat, and there was some other guest that was in the driver's seat, and he was like, "Is it okay if I back this seat up? I want to just get it to my optimum position." And I was like, "Go ahead, I'll start screaming if it hurts." So he leaned the seat back, and it was like touching my knees, and my calves were against the seat, and I was like, okay. So if you've ever been into Tacoma, I would say it's very, very similar in interior
all right,
cabin
okay.
space.
That answers.
So
yeah.
I've been in an F-150, which I imagine the interior of that is probably similar to the Cybertruck, where you feel like you're you're in the living room because it's so wide and tall. You're just like, whoa, we got lots of space in here. But I guess that's just the compromise you have to make when you want something smaller that can fit better in parking spots and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't put 5 people in it. I think 4 is maybe pushing it. 5 is definitely over the edge.
I don't know, Mike. I was able to fit 3 taller people in my Model 3. Drew, Nick,
yeah, and
Luis,
that
if you can hear me.
experience. That experience is what made Luis want a Model Y.
I'm glad. I'm glad you got an
I love
honest
sitting next to
because
Luis.
because for me, so here's the thing. If I'm buying it, I'm never going in the back seat. Like, let's be real. I'm either driving
That's
or
my
I'm
opinion, too.
Or I'm co-pilot. I will never be in the back. I go in the back seat of my Model 3 to screw around, like film or like just to demo something, but never.
Right.
This is what it's like to be a poor person in the back seat of my Model 3.
This is what it's like to drive the Randy Express on the
Right.
and to be fair, I do want the back to be comfortable, especially if it's something you hold on to. Any car, I want it to have a good enough experience for my guests, family, whatever. But for selfish reasons, I don't have to endure that, so I don't care. I care more about the front of the Rivian, like front seats, if that's comfortable enough. Then I do the overall I guess cabin space. However, I was hoping to hear that you'd say it was more in line with the F-150 than it was a Tacoma. I've been in both. My dad, for the longest time, he always had an F-150 of some caliber, but I've been in recent years in a Tacoma, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. It's good for my size. I'm short. That's fine for me.
It feels like you're in a sedan, but just higher.
with a big old bed and bigger wheels.
Right. I would say for the back seats, it's like worse than a Model Y, but better than a 3. because I actually, when we went back, I sat in the middle seat, and it wasn't that bad. Like we scrunched together back there, and it's fine. You can get by with it. The seats are really comfortable, and I like that there's a display back there to change HVAC settings, which Teslas don't have. But
unless you have a Plaid Model S,
right? Get any of the $100,000 Teslas, they'll have it. But yeah, it's
or just get an iPad.
They did a good job.
Cool. So you're asking about my scores there, Mike.
Yeah, are you averaging a 98?
I have not gone below a 98, and the last time I got a 98 was on the 9th. And the day before that, on the 8th, I got a 99. Everything else has been hundreds.
Congrats. That's awesome. That
I
puts
have
you
not
closer.
There's 4 days, though, since last overall. I think it was last weekend on the 10th. Sorry, on the 11th and the 12th, I did not drive, and 4 days ago, I didn't drive. With that being said, I am no longer, gentlemen, in the orange on anything, but I'm still 96.
What?
Aww.
How?
I don't know. I have no idea. I look at everything. I'm green across the board, but I'm running off of Mike's math that he ran. I do 15 miles. Some days I did 30. I'll do an extra lap just to make up for like a lost day or something. I don't know. But yeah, if taking a look, let me see if I can get this more in focus here for you. 96 is still where I'm sitting, but I'm no longer orange or red for anything. And I've been in the green for a while, but that number hasn't changed. And it might be just because I haven't. There are some days I'm not driving, but I don't feel like that should affect the overall like that. Coincidentally, within the past 2 weeks, unsafe following wasn't my Achilles heel. That went to green very quick. It was aggressive turning that was killing me. I didn't understand why. So I come to a complete stop and I baby turn now, like very slow. And the analytics on that, since we started this safety score, you'll see it was really mountain. We got mountains earlier, but then just randomly I'll get little mountains happening right here for no reason. I haven't changed my path for the last 2 weeks. It's frustrating because I want to take the car out to actually go do things, but I'm just using it strictly to just log these miles. My path hasn't changed. So how's it some days I'm getting 100 and other days I'm getting a 99 or 98, and the 99 or 98 is because of aggressive turning. I'm doing the exact same maneuvers the whole time. I can almost do this in my sleep now, but I don't know. So I suspect aggressive turning is what's keeping me at 96, but I just feel like nothing I do is changing the overall score, so I'm just sitting. It's not looking like I'm going to get it before Christmas, guys.
Oh,
don't
give up hope.
I'm not. I'm going to keep driving every day, but it's just...
Okay.
I was really hoping I could give you guys something noteworthy by this episode, but I don't know.
This is what I mean when people, like in my last stream, were saying Tesla must feel confident about a wide rollout of beta if they're willing to give it to this many people. And I was like, they're not that confident if they're still making it required for 98 or higher. If Randy's trying this hard and he's still not tapping 98, I feel like there's not a huge risk appetite essentially for the beta to widen further. But I was impressed with our first ride in it. That was fun.
How'd you guys like it?
Mike kept telling me it was a bad
It was a not
example.
typical example, yeah.
I saw how it went out. Like you started going in immediately, boop, boop, boop. Like I was watching the video on the EV channel just to see it, and I saw how I guess you didn't have a fun start, but
the almost running into concrete was pretty entertaining in my mind, but of course in the moment I'm like, let's not. But
they're making me look bad.
It does some of that sometimes. There's a few streets that I go on where either it's way too cautious and kind of like almost what it showed when it had to cross like 2 or 3 lanes on that one turn. It's like that where it's like, do I go now? And then sometimes it commits and then it's at the bad time, or it doesn't commit, or it doesn't even like really go, but it's like wide open space. There's no cars coming. It's the perfect time to go, and it just can't decide. So I still stick with my description that the beta is confidently uncertain and still needs work, but it's getting better. I think I shared a video with you guys earlier where it was able to make a turn on this one highway that I drive on. That is probably one of the most dangerous highways in the Bay Area, and it did it fine. I mean, yeah, it made me lurch forward when it stopped, but when it crossed over, it was fine. So there's improvement, in which I hope when Randy gets to it, like he doesn't get the crazy experiences that I've gotten in regards to like it almost running into a truck, or like it on a wide lane is just like, we're just gonna randomly curve around, and you just have in the back of your mind, the person behind me thinks I'm drunk and they're gonna call the police. Something like that.
I would say like half the turns we went on, although I was on 10.3, now Mike's on 10.4, but like half the turns we went on were very human-like. It felt as if someone was actually driving. And then the other half was always like, okay, you're being too hesitant here and not confident enough here. It's like the inverse. Basically, being in the car, you feel a lot more of how a vehicle's moving, and we all have this kind of built-in, maybe it's subconscious like feeling of how a car should drive just because we're so used to people driving. So you discover there's a lot of ways for a car to drive legally but not comfortably. It's like that you're too slow here, you're accelerating too much here. Like there was a moment where we turned at an intersection and it did the turn correctly, but you can see a stop sign coming up. So your natural mind is obviously like, okay, you don't need to accelerate very much because we got a stop sign on this next street we're coming to, and it kind of gets really fast, even though you can clearly see a stop is coming. So it's like, I've got time, I can speed up. So it speeds up and then slows way back down again. And it's like, okay, it didn't do anything illegal there. It made the turn safely, it checked its surroundings, and it stopped at the stop sign. But everyone in the car was uncomfortable because it emphasized too much at one point and brake too much at one point. So that's the kind of tinkering that I'm sure we have years left of development for. Because every day I think of another example, or like there's so many places around where I live where I'm like, I wonder what the beta would do here, because it's like weird for me, but I get by and other people get by, but I'm just like, I wonder how a computer would handle this turn, which is why I'm excited to try it. But like, it's just, I see a long road of development that's better than we are now, but not level 5. And every day I think of like, what happens if you just like someone sees a robo-taxi and because they're a teenager or a troll, they just slap a piece of tape on the front cameras and then run away? Like, who's liable for that now? Who's going to take care of? Also, if people make messes in the car, who's going to clean it up? I guess you got to have people ready. And yeah, you got to clean up your robo-taxi, but then how passive of an income stream does this really become?
Tesla
if
bots.
it's like, okay,
just put Tesla bots everywhere and have them have the same port as the supercharging port. So you could just have them sitting at superchargers. So when they're done, or when a customer comes, they unplug themselves and plug in the car and then clean your car.
I just think about how complicated getting an adequate car that can drive itself is. Now think about how many variables and how much variation there are in like cleaning a car. I feel like you have less safety concerns with cleaning a car, but like getting something out of the carpets or the fake leather and all that, like that whole process is going to be a whole nightmare in itself. And I don't think that just replacing the driver solves all this. If you got to have people on standby or someone ready to take over or someone ready to clean at a moment's notice, how passive is this, and how does that offset the cost per mile? So I'm still on board the train of, I want level 3. I want to get in the car, have it drive me, and I can do what I want. I can work, I can podcast, I could listen to. Well, I guess I can listen to music now, but I can go to sleep even someday. But yes, legally, I still have to be in the driver's seat. I'm fine with that. I'll handle the complicated parking, or if there's a construction zone. You know, there's been so many construction zones I've gone through, and I've been like, how the heck is a computer? Like one I went through a couple weeks ago, a construction guy told me that it was okay to run a red light. And the light was red, but they were stopping the traffic that was green because they were working on that side of the road. So I just rolled down my window and he said, go ahead, just go through the red. And I was like, what would a robo-taxi with no one in it have done? And people have all these answers of like, well, it's got a microphone in it so it could hear commands. And it's like, construction guy's not going to know to talk to a...
Well, and
They're just gonna do this.
And then that means if I got a yellow safety vest and walked up to any car and just say, "Oh yeah, see that red light there with the traffic going this way?" Just yeet into that, gonna be 100% safe. And the car would be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like Elon said, a car that the robo-taxi will learn hand gestures eventually and be able to tell when it should go just based on someone waving. But my question is, who is going to be hand gesturing to a car with no one in it?
Yeah,
who's going to look over to
video
cars?
evidence of the opposite. That when it's going, you got a guy. Nick was there. You got a guy. He just turned around and he effectively was like, and he just and he froze. He was like,
Oh, right. I remember that shot. You guys filmed it.
They don't gesture at... Even if they, like... What in tarnation? What in Tesla Nation is that? Like,
I love the videos online where it's like going through a Walmart parking lot and there's just some old guy walking. He's like, hello?
Yeah. Everyone gets confused. So I don't know, like... People keep adding these, like, one-case scenarios of, like, well, when that happens, just clean the car. Okay, well, when that happens, the car has a microphone and it will hear the voice commands. And if they don't want to talk to it, then they'll put a screen on the outside of the car that says, you can tell me what to do. It's like, all of this complication in hardware is not scalable. That's what I keep telling people, is that I was like, the cabin camera in a Tesla cannot see the back seats very well. Someone could easily get in the back seat and drop a cigarette off on the floor. And if the next rider goes in the front seat, they don't see that, and then the next rider is a family. They're going to see the cigarettes, and they go, who left these, chewing tobacco and cigarettes on the floor? Must have been the last guy, because, no one else complained. So then the incorrect person gets penalized for it. And the legality of everything, I struggle to imagine this future where they're completely autonomous. But I stand by my point that Tesla does not need robo-taxis to be successful. They can be perfectly profitable, and I think level 3 as a self-driving perk of like, hey, should I buy a Rivian or a Model Y? Well, Model Y can drive itself. Rivian kind of can, but you still have to pay attention. One day, maybe, they'll be able to say, the Tesla, you don't have to pay attention. You can just turn it on and it drives you. That, I think, will be a huge profit point for Tesla, because they can charge kind of whatever they want for that as long as no one else can do it. And it'll encourage people to keep buying their car, like they need that right now, because so many people already are buying it. So it's not me saying like Tesla's doomed because they won't solve the robo-taxi problem. It's just they don't need it. They'll be fine without it. And I want to own my own car anyway. So part of me is like, if they figured out level 5, they would probably stop selling most cars, because they would make far more money just using these vehicles as robo-taxis than they would selling them to a customer. So I would rather buy it and own it than have to rent one everywhere. I don't want to do that, so that's okay.
I feel like that would be an option, though. That's not the definitive path that what level 5 will take you there. That maybe... Oh, he's Starlinking? Did I just lose him?
Yeah, we just lost Drew. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Talos of EV podcast. And we'll now launch into our favorite segment, Drew Sucks, and it's your fault.
Oh, no, he's back online. He's back.
I heard every word.
Drew sucks and it's your fault. That's an interesting segment. Is it you, the audience, or is it you being Drew?
It's up to audience interpretation.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is an English assignment.
Oh, I hated
Actually,
those.
it is.
No,
What
I'm
did the
too old
poet
for that.
mean when he wrote that he was holding on to a life that he never knew.
He meant
What
that
is
he was
happening?
going on the Starship to Mars, and Elon was giving him a champagne
And
glass.
it's there, and he has to let it go.
Someone should ask the poet who wrote this.
Well,
There's
There's
the guy
a
who put that to
star
song.
man waiting.
What was your question, Randy?
no, it wasn't a question. It was a response to Drew's level 5. Just I don't feel like level 5's definitive path is no one's gonna own it. It will be an option, but much like how you have these fleet vehicles that are ordered for rentals, like there's gonna be two sections of the vehicle, much like Ford. Ford does this with their trucks. You'll have the consumer side and you'll have enterprise side, and the enterprise side might be the most profitable, but I don't think bottom line dollar is the only driving factor of getting to full autonomy. And in this sense being a robo-taxi, because as much grief that we give Elon, he's still like a kid. You know what I mean? Like he was like, this is cool. We got to show people. Like, don't you want to do that? Like you could see the excitement rating off of him, and to let it just be your chauffeur might be a bit boring. That I feel like that's un-Tesla or un-Elon. They're one and the same right now, but I feel
I was gonna
like
say Tesla's less and less Elon as days go by.
it feels like
It's not
isn't
on
it?
the earnings call.
I know. I wonder.
And-
I don't know where he's spending most of his days these days, but it's not driving my stock price up. So
You should invest in SpaceX.
I can't.
Yeah, you could.
If
you
we
had
could, we
millions
would.
of dollars, you could, and I'm sure
Those
you
guys,
do.
yeah, those guys want real money, and
I'm sure you could scrape a couple million together, Randy. Just
yeah, they
Seeing
loan.
how
you
They don't
might
want no
have to
small
drain your
change.
swimming pool of dollar bills, Randy, but you could probably scrape together a couple million.
seeing how Rivian's market cap has taken off since their IPO.
Well, yesterday
in a
it fell pretty hard.
and yeah, well, it's coming back up now, but
Yeah, today's
still
going back up.
like the
Good on
I know
them.
it's volatile, but seeing how Rivian blew up for not much accomplishment, I imagine if SpaceX IPO'd, it would be like quickly 500 billion market cap.
That's what happened with Virgin Galactic pre-COVID. After COVID, it just fell, and I've had like maybe I invested in Virgin Galactic because there was no SpaceX. So when they went public, I bought into those guys, and I think throughout the whole last 2 years now. Wait, no, last year. Oh my God, time. In February 2020 was the only time I was like, hey, look, I got a cool little spike, knowing that it was trending at the moment. March of 2020, something weird happened in the world. I don't know, just something. And since that day, I would say I have only had one blimp of like, hey, I'm not in the negative. All right, whatever. but be that as it may, that told me there is a lot of interest, not just with space, but it's no secret. People want SpaceX specifically to be a public company, so people can invest and all
I
that stuff.
just want the record to show.
Yeah,
I did
here
not
we go.
say anything about space. This conversation derailed from EVs and went to space without me saying anything. So
Okay,
There's batteries
That's all I
on
need
the
to
Starship, so it's
okay,
an
that's
electric
true. Actually,
vehicle.
we can talk about the 2170s.
There's also
Right, where I'm-
motors
where I'm-
and
from the
Model
sky.
3s and Model Ys on Starship as well.
Uh-huh.
There's also like this roadster somewhere.
are we being
That wasn't
monitored,
Starship.
Nick? Are we being
To-
watched?
To
am I not-
disagree,
Are we being monitored? Am I not allowed to speculate?
What do you mean being monitored? You're
I don't know. You're like, let the record show.
on the internet.
Are you making the point that for once you're not talking about space and I am?
No, that's the point.
I
I'm
was
making.
worried
Yes.
for you. It's like, is Nick about to get in trouble?
No. Say whatever you want. No.
I was over here like, are we
Starship
being
sucks.
I get it. I'm the Nick today.
I'm worried
Track-
about the Starship, actually. I've been
I
worried
understand
less and
now.
less about the Cybertruck, but I'm now worried about the Starship.
I'd say opposite. There's more
to push
confidence in
back
Starship.
on Randy's original point to provide some structure to this. I think that assuming a lot, because I don't believe this will happen soon, but assuming they solved level 5 autonomous driving, it would support their mission statement to go all in on robo-taxis and probably only sell like performance vehicles for those who really want them for a very high price, because they could make far more money from the robo-taxis. And also, by Tesla's logic, a robo-taxi can replace like 8 cars, whereas selling someone a Model Y or Model 3, that replaces 1 gas car. But a robo-taxi can drive a bunch of people all day. It doesn't have to park in a garage or park at an office place. So they just own and operate those. They're more profitable, and by their logic, it accelerates their mission statement because they can offset the need for more car ownership, and that means less gas cars are needed. So building 1 car that drives tons of people is more efficient and more sustainable than building EVs that just transport 1 owner and sit around most of the time. And then, yeah, like Elon, I agree, is kind of like a kid at heart, and he's like, no, you want to drive it and you want to feel it. But I think that's what the performance stuff is for. That's why Elon's going to say, well, if you're going to buy a car, you better get the best, which is the Plaid. You know, it's got the best acceleration, it's got the best this and that. But if you just need something for daily commuting and you're not like driving on a racetrack, they're just going to say, yeah, robo-taxi's cheaper. It's easy, it's sustainable, it's autonomous, you'll love it, it's great, and you can use your phone, you can do whatever you want in the car. It's just going to be dirty.
But I don't subscribe to the premise that selling a vehicle means you're just replacing 1 gas vehicle for an EV. My car, for example, theoretically, as I was told, so dating back to at least 2019, but even further back than that, is capable of level 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that means it has the foresight of everything since then also being capable, and us selling them when we get to that point, we're not going to be replacing vehicles the same way as we were with gas vehicles. And my car, I suspect, if it has a good long life of not being in any more accidents, that it will be around for a very long time. And this idea of taking away one combustible engine for an EV, you might have a bunch of cars driving around doing its own thing, but there's overhead costs to that too that Tesla would have to be responsible for, that the burden is now on us as the owner. And why not? Why not let us bear that burden then by owning the vehicle, and we do as we please with it, driving whoever around, whether it's our own family or you want to robo-taxi it out, or if the technology is already there to let you drive completely independent, and you don't by drive it's just doing its own thing. What happens at that point is, or who it's servicing at that point, is kind of irrelevant. So I don't feel that its end game is to take the ownership away. You can have robo-taxi. I think the term robo-taxi is misconstrued. All right, that's how I feel. I feel robo-taxis, how we're picturing it, is kind of like how we were picturing FSD. Like I don't think we're seeing or agreeing. Not you and me, but I think like all of us in this space as a whole is acknowledging robo-taxi for what it can or can't be, because the elephant in the room at the end of the day is regulation, and I just don't see it going through ever. So we can have talking points about it and talk about this pretty green future that I just don't believe is ever going to happen, because I don't like talking politics, but money's in politics, and there's opposing interests and all that aside. I just don't see getting at least the United States on board. Never mind the world, but I just don't see the U.S. getting on board completely. You have people that want to do it, obviously, but I to make that
definitely not with this administration. That's for sure.
Yeah, Tesla doesn't exist in this administration.
No, yeah. I just struggle to believe that we get to that point ever. Therefore, the idea of not owning an EV, I just don't see that as the means. I see that as a means for enterprise. This thing that you were describing just a minute ago, I definitely see that happening for Hertz, enterprise, Rent-A-Car, and anybody else. And that could be their business model if it ever gets to that. But there's going to be a section just in that market where private owners are going to, do as they please, and that may be more out of a necessity because of what's approved through regulation and not.
Well put.
That's my thought.
I hope you're right. I don't want it to go that way. That's just what I think would happen if they solved it, but I don't think they'll solve it for a hot minute.
We said once before, and I don't know if your opinions changed, and I don't remember my opinions, to be fair, but I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime. I don't think I'm going to see this resolved in my lifetime. We disagreed
on that.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry.
I'm not that much older than you.
Yeah.
Randy,
you and I will be dead together.
I think we've got a long ways to go, but I think we will see it eventually. At least in limited jurisdictions. Maybe not on any country and any road on the planet, but especially in major cities, I could see it working with enough neural net training, with Dojo coming online, and with the right regulatory approval. We've already got it to a very, very limited extent with Waymo, and they're slowly expanding. But I feel like they've got a lot of time to expand, as does Tesla, within our lifetimes. So that just means no, it's not going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, but someday, like if there was a way to look into the future, it'll become obvious when it does happen. But yeah, every step along the way, I think people look at the beta often as we're 90% there and we just got to figure out the last 10%, and there's some people that are like, we are 10% there. And that last,
in my case, I'm 2% there. I'm at a 96.
I view the edge cases and those rare instances, because like making a mess in the car and someone vandalizing it and those odd situations where the robo-taxi messes up, they're not common. They're going to be probably 1% or less than 1% of instances, but that's going to be what prevents this thing from going legal or going more widespread. Who's held liable when the car makes a mistake, and that whole battle, I think, is a lot longer than many Tesla bulls make it out to be. But I still have complete faith that if there was a way to make autonomous vehicles, Tesla's doing everything right.
Technically, to my other point is that to my understanding, we're already there. If the hardware's capable, and my 2019 car is capable, then Tesla already did their part. Now we're just waiting.
I mean, they're assuming it's capable. They don't know for sure. There's the possibility of them hitting another local maximum where we are making good progress with the beta and this neural net training, and we're training Dojo, and that's going to come online next year, and that should help the development speed up. But if they hit another maximum where it's like it keeps making these many mistakes, and we take one step forward and 2 steps back on certain updates, then it's like, well, we thought this was the best way to do it because we got further than we've ever got before, but we still didn't quite get to that trail of 9s that Elon was hoping for.
Yeah.
So there's always the possibility of that local maximum again. The one, I know people ask, like, will additional hardware be required a lot? Like, do we have the hardware capable? The one change in hardware, I might be stupid for suggesting this, that I think would make a bigger difference is putting, like, either a 360 degree or 2 fairly high, 2 powerful cameras that can see far at, like, the very front, like right by the license plate on the very tip of the vehicle, because there's a ton of situations where it needs to see, like the place Mike had to take over is kind of a tough corner where cars are coming from both directions, and a human can kind of lean forward, lean around, but these cameras are fixed and they're often pointing kind of backwards and frontwards, and they're not able to see, like when you're at a blind corner, how far out cars are coming from. And I think you could have superhuman visibility if you had cameras at the very, very front somewhere with something small that could look in both directions, and a human can't even get that perspective. So that would allow it to see where cars are coming much better than a human ever could, whereas right now with the cameras current layout, I feel like they struggle to see that far ahead sometimes, particularly on a tight turn, which I've
if only there
been
were
in
some
myself.
sensors they didn't take away to help with that.
Well, the radar wasn't going side to side. It was going just straight forward, which I do agree with them. I don't think that's necessary if you got the vision problem figured out, but I do think there's some kind of natural blind spots built in that if there was a bottleneck, if there was like a hardware limitation, I don't think it's the computer. I don't think it's the resolution of the cameras. I think it would be just that unoptimum viewing angle for the tight turns. That's like my one prediction.
I'd agree.
That might bite them back later.
At night, there's this turn that I've mentioned before that it's been able to do one direction sometimes, but never really in the other. I got it to do the other direction, but that was only during the day. During the night, it thinks it's a cliff. It looks at it and it's like, no. We'll just keep on going.
Because the headlights don't go that direction.
They don't, and they're not like the made in Germany Model Y where it can move the headlights a certain way. But even so, it looks at this hump that you have to kind of go over.
Stupid Germany with their cooler technology.
I know, and their paint and everything.
And their paint.
But
Stupid
it just can't do it at night.
It all right.
So I think maybe Drew's idea of a second camera. I always thought, would it be funny to do one camera, kind of like what? Sorry, Busby. I forget what the system is called, but it's hanging out in San Francisco. It's a Chevy Bolt, and it's got a rotating camera up over by the rear view camera or rear view mirror. And I thought, well, what if Tesla did that? But then you've got a rotating camera, and sometimes it's not looking in the right direction. It could miss something. So having maybe two cameras, that's another part that you have to add to it, and there could be problems with it, and you're going to have to be able to clean it off if it's obscured. But
True.
Adding just a second camera or maybe just two cameras near the front might not be a bad idea. But I'd argue maybe just add a second camera up where there's already the existing camera, and then have that split level, because having that height will definitely help. You'll be able to see further, and also if it's got that angle, it can also see down. So it could be able to delineate what a curb is versus a wall, or just not even seeing the curb like it sometimes does with the car, and it gets real close. So,
right. I just feel like right now I can see around blind corners better than the car camera can, just because of where the cameras are located. Like, you can see a car coming and the car is like creeping forward and then sees it, but that's the only piece of hardware I could potentially see them being like, well, I guess we have to offer this. It's like a little attachment that we got to clip in and rewire for everyone who paid for FSD, but that's about it. I don't think the computer is the problem, or the quality of the cameras. I don't think that makes a huge difference, but
really what they need to have is a person driving the car.
My God,
why has no one thought of that?
The FSD subscription is just a remote-controlled car, and there's some data center with like a bunch of people just driving cars like a video game.
So if there's like
That's
2 or 3
kinda
million
what
people
Waymo
driving Teslas, then you're going to need 2 or 3 million people at the ready for if anyone engages Autopilot.
Exactly. But the fun thing will be,
Provides
it will
jobs.
actually be a video game that Elon will announce, and no one will know it's a driving video game. But
So it's GTA then. We just
It's
have people
GTA
driving
8
everywhere.
with
GTA 8's going to come out in like 50 years at this rate.
Yeah.
So
No, I think that's
Can we
when
get to
FSD
6
will
first?
be ready.
we can't even get to 6. We've been on 5 for more than a decade, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
No, we're
No,
not
I think
at that
Waymo does what Nick is pitching, though, in a way. Like, they have people that oversee the cars, and they're not like driving them, but if the car gets confused, it can like panic and say, "Help me," and then someone on a server will tell it what to do. I could
Help
see.
me, I don't have internet connection.
Help, I've fallen and I can't get up.
Well, yeah, that's why it only works in
2
50
cities.
square miles.
With the 5G.
I don't even know if Waymo's
the
on 5G.
5G.
I think
I mean, that's what they told us.
5G.
5G is going to enable self-driving cars, and
Who's
your
they?
toaster
I don't
being
know.
able to tell you when you need
Who
more
the heck said
butter.
that?
Whoever said that
I
needs
feel like I've
to
heard it.
get educated.
I've heard it too, but I kept seeing it in comments. People were like, 5G isn't about making today's things easier. It's to allow new features in the future, like self-driving. And I was like, I have not heard a single autonomous car company say that we need 5G connectivity for this system to work.
Probably because no one knows what to do with 5G at this point. Like, it's a very small, narrow band signal that you need direct line of sight with. Why not just put it on the cars? Yeah, put a 5G tower on every single car, so that way, one, you solve
You'd
the 5G.
be better off with.
I was gonna say
off with Starlink on every car.
Yeah, but that's not fast.
It's pretty fast.
Not unless you have it on like 5 billion cars, but if you put a 5G tower on all these cars, then you solve both the 5G issue where people don't have 5G connection, but there is cars everywhere. So you solve the problem with proximity, and now you can use that 5G for the car and it's self-driving. We solved the problem. Congrats, everyone. We did it.
We did it. It's been done. Oh, wow.
Finish him.
Do we have wrap-up thoughts, gents?
Yes.
What is that?
I was waiting for someone else to say my
Oh,
tagline
okay.
because
Well,
I've just outsourced all of my stuff at this point. I am.
Have
worried
you seen
about
the Edison Future?
Starship?
That's not a car.
The Edison Future. I think I saw that render and I thought this looks extremely familiar to Nicola's renders. I bet you they have the same render, dude.
Maybe, but it does exist compared to. I guess. The Edison Future was the
Rivian's
EFT
also
one.
existed.
Yes.
It's been delivered. I saw one on the road.
Oh, the Edison Future's been delivered?
No. But you said.
No, you said the Rivian existed.
Yeah, I'm like, it does
Not
exist.
the Rivian. I'm sorry, Nicola. Dang it. I'm sorry.
Nikola
Oh, yeah.
has not existed. They had a rolling mule that went down a hill. At least, and there was only one. At least in this case, with Edison Future, they've got, I don't know how many they had at the event. It looked like 2 or 3.
One that they just painted really quickly. They just painted it different colors really quickly when no one was looking.
That's fair.
Maybe.
That's okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll dive into that more next week. Because
I just saw the solar thing and I was like, good, more solar. Put solar on more EVs, please.
It's like, how do we knock off a Cybertruck while pleasing all of the old truck owners?
Hey, I'll take a knockoff Cybertruck at this point. It's better than no
say
Cybertruck,
that.
which is what
I'm
we
taking a
have.
Rivian at this point.
Yeah.
I've gone
It's
off the rails.
only Tesla's lack of delivery that's made us this excited for Rivian. if Cybertruck was out, we'd be like, oh yeah, Rivian's a thing. Whatever.
Go get your free speaker and lanterns.
I need to see the kitchen package for the Cybertruck that they have in the renders. I want to see what that really looks like. And the tent. How easy is that
forks
to
and
unfold?
knives in the camping package on the Cybertruck better be made out of just flat stainless steel. Like the spoons will just have like this little depression in them, but they're just very flat, angular pieces.
Like a teaspoon.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact I learned, all the utensils in the camp kitchen are titanium. They were showing off all the bowls and the cups, and they were like, these are lightweight metal. And I was like, that's why it's $5,000. Okay. But just knowing you had like bowls and cups and plates and stuff that are all... Wow.
Far away. Take it, Sia.
They're all titanium, and Randy's like, I'll take your entire stuff.
With my Apple Card.
Can I pay with my Apple Card?
Yeah, paid for with titanium.
Hard swipe or hard chip. I don't want that 2%. No, I want to use my titanium for the titanium. That's a fair 1% hoopla.
Ooh. Titanium card for
Titanium.
the titanium, or not titanium, but stainless steel Cybertruck.
That was it. Nick, this should be a great title for the podcast that no one will understand until they reach the end. You just call it Titanium Fork.
All right, that's the name. I will jot that down.
And everyone's like, when are they going to say that?
Welcome to the end of the episode. And I mean literally. So, there we go.
Thanks all. Well, I hope you're all as excited about EVs as I am, because I found out EVs can go across the entire country on a single tank of gas.
Well, technically, yes, with how inefficient gas is, as its current form is in internal combustion engines. But if you put it into an EV, maybe, if you had some converter. No? Oh, okay. That's
There's no way. I just see Mike like dumping gas in the charge port.
Just dumping it on the car.
This is so efficient.
Just work.
Bye bye, everyone. See you
Bye.
next week.